That's right. Good job. Good morning, metalheads of the internet, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Metal Meltdown. Today we are talking about the latest studio album from Godflesh entitled Purge. This is the 9th full-length studio album from this English industrial metal crew helmed by one Justin Broderick, whom you may recognize from other projects such as Jesu, Techno Animal, maybe even way back in the day, Napalm Death. He has also worked behind the scenes in a lot of different capacities, producing, mixing, mastering, and remixing material for everyone from Dragged into Sunlight, Gnaw Their Tongues, Isis, Pelican, Full of Hell, Agoraphobic Nosebleed, Killing Joke, Pantera. A wickedly, stupidly talented and hardworking individual, to say the least. And as such, it's extremely hard not to be excited when any one of his projects rears its head and begins teasing new music. This particular record, though, is especially exciting and interesting and fascinating because it is a spiritual successor to 1992's Purge, Godflesh's sophomore studio album released nearly 31 years ago. With a direct statement from Godflesh saying that Purge revisits and updates the concept of their 1992 album Pure. Going on to elaborate, the title alone, Purge, references directly how songwriter and creator Justin K. Broderick utilizes Godflesh's music as a temporary relief from his diagnosed autism and PTSD. It's the next stage in a journey he has been on since he began creating music, feeling alone and like an outsider in any scene or group from childhood through to adulthood. I want to officially start off this review by saying that Purge perfectly captures the feeling of constantly being alone, constantly feeling like you're an outsider. There's so much tension and anxiety built up in this record. It is cold, it is dark, it is menacing. There are weird angular grooves and off-putting unorthodox vocal melodies and harmonies. Repetitive and intentionally monotonous pounding rhythms and beats and sections with harsh electronics, coupled with guitar tones and textures and soundscapes that bring to mind just as much post-metal and sludge metal as it does industrial metal. As some critics have noted, it is not as diverse as 2017's Post-Self, but I do believe it makes up for that by being more immersive and by being more cathartic. Opening track Nero, for instance, is dark and menacing and shadowy and just kind of icky. Everything about this, from the aggressive shouted vocals to the sludgy, confused tones and textures to the very lifeless and mechanical drums and the overall production and feel of this, it communicates this idea of being isolated, of being shut off from the rest of the world, and being extremely frustrated by it. Following track Landlord is full-on, dark, edgy, early 90s underground industrial metal, and I mean that in the best way possible. Some good, minimalistic, guitar-driven industrial chugging, more electronic, mechanized vocal leads. Honestly, a lot of the sound effects and a lot of the drum fills especially feel like something I could have heard on like a Fatboy Slim record or something from the Prodigy back in the day, albeit obviously with like an industrial metal coat of paint. Then there's Army of Non, which kind of finds a soft spot in between 90s hardcore and post-punk with these angular, lurching rhythms, some thick, grimy bass licks, and some more very aggressive in-your-face vocals. Lazarus Leper is very slow-paced, driven by very eerie vocals and guitar effects. Definitely one of the more inaccessible cuts on the record, especially with it being also a pretty long cut, clocking in just over 6 minutes. But I don't know, man, I find myself really connecting to this song. I kind of like how awkward and ugly it is. It kind of adds to the overall tone and theme of the album. Mythology of Self is an absolutely devastating cut, emotionally and sonically like industrial sludge doom that goes straight for the fucking gut. Really love the closing number too. You are the judge, the jury, and the executioner. Similarly, very slow-paced, very brutal, very heavy on like doom and sludge with some more eerie vocals. It's a very oppressive and dominating cut. Definitely a decent amount of fat that we could trim off here if we really wanted to. This thing clocks in at nearly 8 minutes long, and it could probably make do with being like 6.5 at most. But with the album wrapping up in 44 minutes, it's really hard for me to sit here and argue, hey, this thing could be shorter. Hey, you could cut this. Hey, you could trim this. And that's before we even consider that removing anything from this record in turn removes from the experience that Justin is trying to make. Like, his goal consistently across the album is to create the feel of being consistently and constantly isolated, consistently and constantly feeling like an outsider no matter what. And it's coming from somebody who has dealt with this all his life as someone with autism and PTSD, and also just by playing really weird fucking music in a bunch of really weird fucking bands. And I connect with that, big time. Straight the fuck up. I might be a little biased in that regard. I've made no secret of the fact that I am mega hella autistic on the Metal Meltdown. But even so. Even if you were to ignore that though, like if you went into this not knowing anything about Godflesh or Justin and just wanted to listen to some really dark, fucked up, noisy shit, I think you'd still get pretty much exactly that. I'm feeling a solid 4 to 5 on this. I really enjoyed this record, love the way it's put together, love what it's communicating, love the image and the message and the vibe that it's putting out there. It's definitely not like a fun record per se, like if you're in the mood for some, fun, bouncy industrial metal, the kind of shit you might hear at a club or some shit, like if you're coming into this expecting like some fucking Rob Zombie ass bullshit or like, I don't know, fucking Static X or Power Man 5000 or whatever the fuck, you're definitely going to be very, very disappointed. But for anyone looking for dark, fucked up music that speaks to dark, fucked up emotions, I really don't think you can go wrong with this bad boy right here. So there you have it. Purge from Godflesh, 4 to 5. It's great. Check it out. And that is it for the Metal Meltdown. I'm not an expert, nor do I claim to be. So what do you think? Do you like this record? Do you not like this record? And what do you want to hear from me next? And thank you for watching. Make sure you press subscribe right here so you get updates on the Metal Meltdown fucking immediately. Look, more videos. Hey, join us on Discord. The link in the description below. And as always, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.